Hi, I'm Ikea, and for today's video, we're going into the second part of improving yourself as we go into analysis and specifically self-analysis, as we're going to go into how to actually think about what you're doing, somewhat in the moment, but mostly as well after the fact. We're going to go also into some tools, how to record yourself to basically watch replays, as in a lot of games that is a very useful tool. In Division, we don't have the actual replay system that you would have in, for instance, RTS or some competitive FPS games. Instead, we can, of course, just record ourselves and then do some analysis on that footage. And that is actually the core of improving yourself. In those moments, you will find what you are doing right and what you're doing wrong, and you can be honest with yourself. And instead of just going, it's the game, the game messed up there and I died because of it, you can actually be like, okay, no, I did something dumb and I paid the price. And we're even going to go into a moment where, for instance, I paid a price as I recently lost a hardcore character. We'll go into some of those analysis parts, but first we're going to actually discuss a tool that we can use to record ourselves for those unfamiliar with that. Although, of course, many tools exist for that. So yeah, let's jump right in. And to start off with, as a tool to actually record yourself, I would recommend OBS, as that is free software available to anybody on any system as well, but of course, most people will run Division on a Windows, even though you can run it on Linux nowadays. And if you just search for OBS Studio, you will find a link to here, although I'll link it down below as well, of course. There are, of course, many softwares that you can use to record yourself. Most video card softwares, if you're running NVIDIA, will have Shadowplay, I believe it's called, for NVIDIA, and AMD will have an equivalent, I'm certain, which will allow you to just set up a key press to record. Most of them, including OBS Studio as well, will have an option, for instance, to record post hoc, so after the fact, where you can press a button and it was basically continuously recording, and whenever you press a certain button, it will save that actual last moment's set amount. On PC as well, I believe the game thingy that it has, the what used to be called the Xbox Studio, I think on Windows, but it's no longer that. Also has those features. So there are many ways of recording yourself. I'm familiar with OBS, so I'll be linking to that one. Also, this is available to everybody, so it can be pretty universal. You can just download it from here. It is freely available, and they have this help on the top right, which can actually get you into a lot of the ways of setting this up. Also, it's very popular software, so if you just search for OBS Studio and then whatever, like recording gameplay, you will find what you need to do. But for the short of it, as we have here in the help section, as we went through here and went to game capture setup guide, we have basically just add a source. This is their system of adding sources. You add a new game capture. After adding a new game capture for Division, you don't need to set up anything else. It just works as is. You don't need to set up as it has, for instance, some utility modes for capturing other games that sometimes are a little bit more annoying, and some games do not allow for game capture at all due to their anti-cheat system, but that's not the case with Division. So you can just set up a game capture, set it up, and then just hit the record button, which is just down there to start recording. This will just put a file somewhere. You can, of course, set your settings to to alter all of those. You can even fiddle around a lot if you want to for settings of quality and such. None of those, of course, matter if you're just using it to record yourself, just to rewatch it. And then, of course, you can just replay those files in whatever viewer you want, in whatever file viewer you like, or movie viewer. I'll be, of course, using VLC in a second. And yeah, that is important to set up because we're going to use that again and again. So I wanted to get the software part of it out of the way. So recording yourself is actually very useful because in the moment you make Other things are very much noticeable when you're not in the moment, when you're looking at it through without having to do the actions. You kind of suddenly notice how you're performing, especially if you also compare that to other players, because we can, of course, see other players play and kind of see what they're doing. Analysis is very important for that. So now let's actually jump into a scenario and actually do this. And let's put that into practice now of doing some self-analysis. First off, the best way to improve yourself is to rub yourself all over this shaky tree. Those haven't seen it, just as a... But though, of course, without joking around, we're going to go into the UA. I am running that class again, as we talked about earlier. This is a really good teacher because it's basically running around with a glass house. You know, it is very easy for your glass house to be knocked in. We're doing it with 3 directives. We're going to push in here, and the first part of it, of course, was positioning, as we talked about. So where do I take position? I'm going to just kind of sit here. I'm actually going to let them fall back a little bit, just so I can murder a few of these reds while I chain the heavy. This is then, of course, the triage part as well, where I kind of, well, we go over which targets we want to murder first. That heavy, I can always just chain, and they will be very ineffective. When one enemy remains, the next wave will spawn. That's then kind of game knowledge and content knowledge in this case. Now, of course, all of this is also things that I know how to do, kind of, because once you're more comfortable with the game, it is much easier to kind of continuously do these things even in the moment. But you can mitigate that a lot very easily. We are still in combat. That's... third guy likely put down a turret. You can very easily mitigate that by just doing what I said a second ago of just making sure that you record yourself, and then you can, after the fact, just come back and have a look at it and go, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? So I'm here playing pretty aggressively, and we're going to analyze this part. And of course, yeah, I've hit record, as also, of course, that is, you know, that's how you're seeing this segment, is I have to hit record as we're recording this as well during a stream. And we're just going to have a look in a second, as I'm going to skip the boxes there, as I of course know there is loot there. We're going to go and murder up to the next wave, up to and including the next wave, and be pretty aggressive about it, and then we'll come back and have a look at what actually happened during this whole fight. I'm gonna also because I have kind of a set way, especially with a red build, of going through this. I'm making basically mistakes on purpose. That's why that hesitation was there for a second. I'm gonna also use some of my tools that I have available, like that fire grenade that I tossed out there. And I've also, in the traditional sense of a glass red, especially with fragile armor, I caught them all. Fragile armors are basically like Pokemon, gotta catch them all. I had the full 4 set. And here as well, we've reached a checkpoint again. And one thing you can do, solo, in groups, doesn't really matter. Of course, at any time you can, again, go back to the White House if you want to just reset med packs and your fragile armor and everything. Just going here, just going to the White House here will reset your med packs. If you want to reset your armor breaks, you have to go into shared space, which is, for instance, over here. Yeah, let's go analyze what we just did. And here we are with that file that I just recorded. Now, of course, in my case, it is what was showing on stream, so my face is also there in the corner. And we're gonna just roll it back. That is the core of self-analysis. This is it is literally that simple. Just look at what you're doing, and there is, of course, the thing of like, I already know what I'm doing. I can likely guarantee you. I can fully guarantee you that if you rewatch your own footage, you will find things that you're going like, what was I thinking there? What was I doing there? And on top of that, you can also just add, because we got through there. through there fine, right? We got to well, we could have gone through the entire mission, but we went through the section that I was intending to, and we didn't get downed. We got a lot of armor breaks, but also I don't care about armor breaks on a class, right? So yeah, let's just get started at the start as we enter the mission. So one of the things with positioning is, as we were talking about, as we look down this path that we're going to go, is where we were talking about tall cover and short cover, and also, of course, having height advantages when we can. Now, for instance, here, there isn't much in the form of tall cover leading in. We have basically that the little side container there, that blue one in front of us. We can use that, for instance, for tall cover, but the rest of it is basically all short cover leading up to them. That's, of course, made to be so to be a defensible area kind of for them. As we push in, I pulse using my build to help me. We could, of course, have a lot of other tools there as well. We could have demolish a firefly that could be sent and, for instance, would destroy both of the grenade lady's pouches. That would kill them being red, that would instantly kill them, and then also chaining the heavy together with that as well. Now, to me, a pulse is much more valuable because it always kind of works and gives me the knowledge of where I need to go. So we instantly see there is a heavy there, and a heavy, of course, just takes some time to kill. There's no quick way of, well, some heavies do have quick ways of killing them, of course. The cleaner heavies, you can shoot their backpack and then shoot them in the face. The Black Dusk heavies have a hole behind their healing pack and such. But for a hyena one, you just need to go through one of his armor pieces and then murder him. So initially, this is then where triage begins. What do I kill first? We have two red grenadiers, a red assaulter, and we have a red heavy. I'm going to go after the reds just because I can kill them very quickly, especially with a glass red here, fully set up to murder things. They're going to die pretty easily, especially as well. They have weak points that I can shoot and also murder them instantly. And that heavy, of course, I can chain him, the Black Dusk and the hyena heavies, we can chain them and take them out of the fight for a second or two, and that will give me more than enough time to deal with the rest. Positioning wise, I'm kind of going to use that middle part of the entryway there, kind of as my split. So I'm going to split the enemies into two sides, kind of, where I can deal with one side without being shot by the other side. Now then, awareness, of course, part is just being the pulse helps a lot with that. I know exactly where the enemies are. I wouldn't, for instance, see what the enemy is behind the bus there. That is pulsed. That red assaulter, that would be invisible to me if I weren't using a pulse. That is why the pulse is that handy, because the rest, of course, I could see. A lot of people go like, why do you need a pulse, or you can just see enemies, and the answer is, can you? Through walls, through smoke, through darkness, through explosions, through being blinded? No, you can't. The pulse is a very useful tool, and I would definitely recommend it if you're trying to improve your game to run pulse for quite a while. It will also give you the game knowledge. So for instance, here as well, I know that on one enemy remaining here, the next wave will spawn. So that makes it that I will try to set up in a way that when I am down to just one enemy, that I'm kind of ready for the next wave. So let's let this part play out. So I take short cover here. Now, of course, I was kind of just setting up and kind of just pacing and kind of just thinking about what I'm going to do. Sometimes that's handy as well. Don't start. One of the biggest things that I can impart in you, if you're doing that at the moment, you should totally stop, is just see an enemy and just start shooting. That is one of the worst things that also makes you a very annoying teammate, if you weren't aware of that, because you're just scattering everything instantly. Just take a second, look at the situation at hand, and kind of make a decision. Just because you can shoot doesn't mean you should. Position yourself first, get into a place where you can be comfortable, do the triage, do the selection of the enemies, what you want to shoot, and then go into it. So yeah, here I've made my decision. I'm gonna go after the reds. We're gonna use that middle part, as I talked about, as our tall cover, basically between the two sides. Going for the weak point instantly, killing that one. On a red, it will basically, whenever you destroy one of these weak points, it does their health damage. It does red words of health damage to that enemy. So on a red, it will kill them with just that explosion. Then I'm going to chain the heavy, still using that middle part. I, of course, have an enemy above me that I'm kind of now looking for. They jump down, again, using their weak point. That heavy, of course, was disabled the whole time. He's now the last enemy standing, so the next wave has already spawned in. They're going to come out of the entryway that we're going to enter through. I'm going to just kind of shoot him towards the back, which is going to chain him, hopefully, as well, if I don't kill him. But, of course, I kill him. This is solo scaling heroic. This isn't that hard. Again, going somewhat for weak points, if I can, especially with those when they're facing away from you, it's pretty easy. This guy, not the greatest aim here, but also aim is one of those things that I will generally just fire, and if it hits, it hits, and if it doesn't, I'm kind of okay with that. I overfire quite a bit. I don't care much about my accuracy stat at the end of missions or anything, and because of that, I will fire much more than some people, where they feel like this is in cover and you can't hit them. Oftentimes you still can. You can just get a tiny pixel of them. And then, yeah, we follow that up by murdering him. I get armor break here. If I really were concerned about armor breaks and such, I wouldn't let that happen, of course. But we're going to go out of combat here as well, because at the end of each engagement, of course, here, when there are no more enemies around, we go out of combat and we get healed. Now, that heal will not heal the fragile armor, of course, but I'm at glass. I'm expecting basically to always be at 4 armor breaks after basically the first few engagements. We're going to push in, go to the second room. As I'm here for first, though, that turret guy deployed the turret. That kept us in combat for a few seconds longer. Because I did want that health back and the armor. Here again, I'm going to actually, so this is the reason why triage is a little bit different than just target prioritization, as was brought up. There, I'm choosing to shoot an in-world object just to make an explosion happen. That will cause a bleed to these enemies and stagger them for a second, because that's just what happens to them. That stagger is an extra CC for a second or two. And yeah, I know that thing is there. That's then also kind of game knowledge. And then we follow that up by breaking the weak point on the rusher there, just to make these enemies basically combat ineffective completely. One thing though, if we go back, if I wanted to do this better, if I, for instance, was struggling in some way, when I'm coming into here, we have, again, if we kind of think about our positioning, because this is the thing about self-analysis, not just going like, I did this, it's what could I do better? So this is, for instance, what I did here on the heroic. We have kind of 2 short covers in front of us. We have that those little separators, but we also have a wall on basically right above where my character's head is at the moment. That would be the place where I would go, for instance, in Legendary, is either the 2 boxes stacked high on the left side, or that wall, and use the wall as my cover. Because as we talked about, tall cover is generally better than short cover. Tall cover, you can much more easily corner peek and not use the cover system, but use cover just as cover without actually using the cover system, because the cover system exposes you quite a lot. But this being heroic, I'm not even really overthinking it, because I kind of know that explosion is there, which I can use to kind of CC them. In this wave, on just the normal version, the not invaded version, or not the legendary version, there's always a rusher in this group. So we just hit the pouch of the rusher. That will, these 2 enemies are completely combat ineffective for the next 5 seconds, and they're 2 reds, and they're not going to live for 5 seconds, especially not as well when I shoot the pouch like that. Here again as well. So we're going to just rush in and just start blasting. I can get away with this. The build can kind of get away with this. This is also then partially build knowledge, knowing that this build can deal enough damage. It isn't a striker, but then also actually in this situation, except for that heavy. I could have kind of stacked on the heavy and kind of kept my stacks up afterwards. But this is a glass red, so this kind of has damage from the go. This is from the first second. It is actually outputting all of its damage, which is quite the benefit to a glass red. But then, yeah, we have this situation again. Again, I'm not really positioning for defensively. I'm not positioning myself in a place where I'm going to be safe. I'm just kind of starting blasting. I know this wave is here. I know there's always going to be a rusher in this wave. That there's always that rusher that's at the end, even in 4-man, is always there. I'm gonna kill that guy and then kind of hit the rusher, and then we're just gonna push into here. Again, not playing too aggressively, but one thing I did do there, for instance, is put the, if we go back a second, the sniper, I'm kind of, until I kill this guy, I'm kind of putting them behind the wall. So I do know that they're there. I know that they can shoot me, but I'm kind of mitigating that by putting a wall between us, basically. Killing that guy. And at the core of it, again, is always just trying to make it 1 versus 1s as much as you can. So once we had a few enemies left, I singled out enemies and tried to kill them. We're going to push through here. And the thing I'm going to do instantly here is here it is a little bit more important for me to take a little bit of cover. I know that already because there's 4 enemies. They're going to kind of be in that engagement kind of right away. So I do take here tall cover and kind of corner peek and kind of use that to make 1 versus 1s. I kind of need this, and I start working from right to left as the cover is on the left. I am kind of getting hit by the minigun as I'm poking out too far. There is here as well, there is actually by their left feet on our right side, there's actually a canister there that you can shoot and that will blow them up. I didn't choose to do so here, likely thinking that I could kill them quickly enough, which, yeah, I can. And I'm kind of keeping this position against all of those enemies, and then once we're done with them, we're pushing in. Here again, I kind of have the game knowledge, of course, and the content knowledge to know where the spawns are. That kind of stuff you'll learn over time. And it does help a lot because you know when to push and such. Because I know actually that until I push beyond those boxes in front of me, the next wave won't spawn. Here, I'm going to actually push in, and this was the part, as I was talking about in the video as well, that I kind of make actual kind of mistakes, so to say. Because, for instance, here we have this box in front of me. This is actually where I would go. I would kind of hide behind that white, tall cabinet kind of thing and shoot from there. I expressly don't, and I kind of go here. Now here is one of those spots where I'm taking now short cover, but I'm still, there is this divider on the left side, kind of obscured by my character model, that will still kind of split the left and right. So this position isn't as bad as just being in short cover in front of everyone, but it does expose me kind of to everyone that comes out. One of the things is if you set yourself up in a position where you can shoot at everyone, everyone can also shoot at you. So sometimes a very overwatchy area is not the best choice because everybody can murder you as well. We use a grenade using the tools that we have available. A fire grenade is very handy. That's also why it's kind of survivalist here. All of the specializations have things that will help them a lot. If I was a demo here, for instance, or in the previous room, there was a bunch of people bunched up around that minigun, I could have grenade launched them. With a minigun, with a gunner specialization, of course, I have some bonuses just going on after on kills and such, and the armor on kill. Although the armor on kill would not be very useful to this, that's why I also generally just don't run gunner on glass reds, because unless I'm LMG, mostly because that armor on kill, I don't have any armor for the unkill to help me with much. So yeah, be aware as well of your build choices, as we talked about. And yeah, this cover, for instance, if I was set up much more back and in that one position, I would have much more preferred that. But yeah, we pushed into this short cover. It worked out for us in the end, of course, because yeah, we're just on heroic. We're not doing anything too difficult. And then sometimes as well, blind firing, as I did there. When enemies are that close, like that rusher was, you can blind fire. The chances of you getting hit are much smaller. You still will get hit, especially if multiple things are shooting at you, but it is much smaller, and yeah, you can very easily kill something that is within 5 meters with just blind firing. And yeah, I'm kind of here hesitating on what target to pick. I was kind of fixated on that engineer there. I should have killed the shield guy first because he was always just going to be exposed. But of course, I had hit health gate here, and then that as a game mechanic, it is very important to kind of, especially for glass red, I kind of live on the health gate. Whenever my health gate gets broken, I kind of need to be aware of that. Of course, I have a hive to follow that up with. But understanding systems like that, where you know that if I get hit again now, I'm going to get downed, that is very handy to know. And then, yeah, we finish it off, of course, with killing these two engineers. They put turrets down, so that because of that, I'm kind of blind firing until I kind of noticed that that guy hadn't put his turret down and that the other turret was not able to shoot me from where it was because it's kind of behind some stuff there. And as we went through this, yeah, we can make some choices. So, for instance, here, if I needed it, if I was struggling here, positioning myself as I did there was at the start room was perfectly fine. But then I was kind of out in the open against this second wave. I'm just kind of running around, running and gunning. I'm getting away with it because we're just on heroic and there aren't that dangerous, and enemies here, hyenas as well, are easier than most other factions. We're just kind of dealing with them. But I'm very much exposed and in the open. So what I could do is use that structure that is kind of in front of my character there as kind of cover and concealment from some of the enemies. It's kind of splitting them up. Then dealing with whatever remains, so like that guy. When pushing in here as well, I'm kind of way exposed. I could place myself much more safely, but I chose not to because we're just going fast. This is one of the things as well, when people talk about red builds and kind of, you know, you can't shoot when you're dead. No, but while you're alive, you can kill everything. The damage is king for a reason, quite often. If you can kill fast enough, you kind of can mitigate having other systems there. But then on top of that, you do need to have the game knowledge and such. For instance, here, CCing this entire wave with just hitting that rusher. If you don't do that, I would be dead, for instance. Same again with this other wave where we kind of use the second rusher kind of to CC all of those people on the left, on the right there, leaving only some of the people on the left. That kind of helps a lot. And even while exposed, I didn't even get downed during this entire part. And then, yeah, here is the part where I kind of know it's a little bit more dangerous because there are a bunch of enemies kind of set up to shoot me, especially that minigun. And here, then, I do take tall cover. I just start pieing the room, kind of making it 1 versus 1s, going down the line and kind of murdering everything. That is then also game knowledge. I know when to push and when to kind of slow down because some waves are, of course, much more dangerous than others. Here, for instance, we didn't have a full elite wave. But in a bunch of missions, there are actually full elite waves, and those are usually the waves that kind of hurt a lot more because there's just more health and armor to get through. The enemies shoot a lot faster as well. They will kind of take cover and start firing on you, where reds and purples will kind of have somewhat basically reaction times till they actually start firing at you. And then, yeah, at the end here, we did take a bad position, but kind of on purpose, as we exposed ourselves to everyone. But we got away with it again as well, just because we had the damage to kill them quickly enough. So yeah, let's put that one in the bag. Let's actually do this basically again, but with a different style of build. And for a second part, we're gonna do the same with a different build on Stranded Tanker on a different mission. We're gonna just push into here. I did put it 4 directives right here because I can't deal with 5. I'm on a Techtank. I'm on the Heartbreaker Techtank. Just to quickly show that if you don't notice, these are of course all part of my build collection and stuff. So you can very easily copy them if you want to. I'll link both builds down below as well. And yeah, this plays very differently. Has a very different amount that it can be aggressive. Also, it can deal with the cool skills. There pretty easily, so we have that up as well as the backpack or the artificer. While it is hanging from the backpack, does not require chargers to actually heal the shield. And yeah, we're gonna just push in. And as you can see, I'm playing very differently here. I'm rushing in. There is a mechanic, of course, to Heartbreaker that we now have to kind of deal with, which is getting stacks, getting fat stacks. And we're gonna get those stacks, and that's why I'm pushing this aggressively. I'm trying to get in and get my ACS on target, and the ACS, of course, does not really have really good effective range. We're gonna grab some ammo and pushing. I had some mementos as I was standing outside of the mission and preparing, and we murdered patrol, but that's all the mementos I had, as we have as well here. We're not fully stacked. I'm going to go upstairs here. So this is where we were talking about in the previous mission with positioning as well. Part of it is lines. I have kind of lines that I follow when I'm going through missions, and most of them are well thought out at this point, because I've tried separate different ways, and then, you know, kind of kept the best one. Kind of like, hey, this one worked out the best. Let's do it like that from now on. And then still here and there, I kind of look at what other people are doing sometimes, especially if you're matchmaking. You know, some people make quite different choices. We're gonna clear up this room, and while I'm playing very aggressively, I'm kind of safe up here because I can always get away from the ledge if, for instance, we had that guy coming up. And yeah, I'm just gonna burn through these enemies as we get the last few. That guy is dead once his backpack is lit on fire like that. And very nice of that guy to not send his drone after me. So yeah, we cleared that out pretty quickly. Yeah, let's go have a look at that in the future, to the past. And here we are with the footage of that, what we just saw, and we're gonna go through it a little bit with here. Now, of course, I'm in a different build, a much more aggressive build. I want to stack, as I was talking about. We want to stack for that Heartbreaker as we have there. That means that I'm going to close the range. Here, it is very exposed and open. I'm kind of revealing myself to all these enemies. There is, of course, the spotting mechanic of enemies. Basically, they take a second to spot you. So if you actually rush in towards them, as we see, they kind of spot me there. This being a red and a purple, an elite will kind of just run away real quickly. The second that it spots you, its first intention is going to become getting into cover. That's just knowing enemies. A purple and a red, they're not going to do that. I didn't per se know that this was going to be a red and a purple, but even if it was an elite, I would have just chased them. So we're going in, we're stacking up Heartbreaker. Heartbreaker is now kind of on 80 stacks, 85, maybe 90 stacks, as we can see from the buff bar. I should actually at this point start swapping off. I shouldn't have taken that full reload on it actually. If I'm analyzing that, from that point onward, I should be using the TKB, because while the ACS, especially in these shorter ranges, does have the burst and such, it doesn't have the sustain. If I'm going and reloading it continuously, that is quite a long reload, and especially with the TKB as well, I can do things like, for instance, with this enemy. I'm too close range here, but of course they do have a weak point on their left leg from our facing on their right. I could shoot that. We're too close for that, of course. So yeah, I'm instead going for the headshots. One of the things as well, if you are close enough, a lot of people, I feel, avoid going for headshots quite a bit. They feel the target is too small. It kind of depends, because for instance here, the reason why the Techtanks can perform really well, even somewhat in group settings in the right content, like Summit, like in the open world, is they can close the distance and actually make use of a headshot multiplier. Now, of course, all weapon types kind of have their own multipliers. With the watch here, even without any brands or headshot stats going in, I have a 75% multiplier. Or a 1.75 multiplier on headshots. That is, of course, additive to the. So it's not a multiplier actually, but that is additive to the crit on this build, which isn't that high. The Heartbreaker Techtank isn't that high on that. And here we're just to kind of, as I went off on a tangent, we're kind of pushing in again and kind of being aggressive once again, because that's what this build is. This is much more of an aggressive build, be in their faces. One thing I am kind of doing though is, and that might not seem obvious starting out, because I could of course gone to the left and kind of engaged all of these people, but I kind of know if I'm coming from the right, and this is one of those things that may make other people seem a lot more competent when you see them play and then you play it and you go like, wait, but it looks so much easier for them. And that's because, for instance, here I have lines, for instance, as well, for an aggressive build like this or Hunter's Fury. I'm kind of putting this pillar up against that door. I know kind of if I'm coming up from this way, a lot of these enemies are going to be obscured just by the geometry of the level. So those kind of things, you can then analyze other people, kind of go look at what they're doing, what they're playing, and then kind of go like, okay, why is their outcomes different than mine if they are? And here again, I kind of know that they're going to spawn once one enemy is remaining. That is generally actually the spawning of this game, especially solo. If one enemy is remaining, the next wave kind of spawns. So we're down to one enemy, so we're going to just murder him quickly. Here, you saw me run this way. And that is because I know as well they're going to spawn from the door that they spawn from and also from the door behind. So instead of me being in between them, the thing that I'm doing there is kind of positioning myself, altering my position, putting everybody in front of me. That way, because of course on a Techtank, the shield is really the defensive part, even though, as you can see there, I have a ton of blue armor there. So I can kind of I've killed a lot of people. And also by being this aggressive, I've picked up the kill confirms, getting me that bonus armor. And of course, as well from the stacking from Heartbreaker as well, a little bit. So I kind of know I can be really aggressive. But I also know I don't want my back exposed to the enemy. And also I kind of want to know just what that enemy is, because now it's a rusher. That's not that dangerous. If it was, a heavy, which can't actually spawn here, but point still stands. Although, well, for solo, for in group settings, you will actually always have a heavy there. There's actually one enemy behind the other one. And I'm kind of positioning myself to kind of put everybody in front of me. That may not, and that's the thing with positioning. It might not be obvious, especially from other people, but it makes quite the difference if once you kind of think about positioning. Because here as well, I know these lines because I kind of have done them. So I usually go for the enemies on the right because I'll be less exposed to the people upstairs. I kind of go through the middle here to kind of have that pillar kind of block a lot of the enemies. Here as well, positioning, I have a kind of the line, I kind of know where I want to go. Instead of jumping in here and instantly engaging, I'm not even engaging. They're kind of in an aware state with that yellow exclamation point. They haven't actually spotted me and they're not shooting at me yet. That doesn't start until here, where that guy goes red. And when the red exclamation point is there, that's actually when the enemies know that you're there and they might shoot at you. So I got to get in pretty close before that happened. And again, doing the same thing, even though that I'm kind of half stacked on Heartbreaker, I'm just going to stack on this guy, push in, and then I'm going to use this upstairs area to kind of position myself to be over the enemies. First of all, that's kind of handy. Just being above enemies is kind of handy, even if they go into cover. So for instance, if that guy kind of went into cover, but I could still shoot him because I have a height advantage over him, and that means that I can still see the top of his head even though he's in cover. And especially, for instance, as we'll see with this guy in a second, here, of course, I can't have the pulse because I'm kind of locking myself. The build kind of requires the Artificer Hive and the shield. So I'm taking those two. Even though I'm not even using the shield much here, it would still be handy on later parts and against bosses and stuff, especially against Vivian at the end here. And yeah, from here as well, we're just gonna also using sound, because actually I didn't know where that guy was, except that he started to put that turret down, and then just the sound of him putting that turret down kind of pinpointed him towards my right, and from there we kind of spotted him. And here, so here, this is the moment where he's in cover. If I was kind of on the same level as him, he's kind of hard to shoot. He's not much exposed, but being above him, he's very exposed. And yeah, next wave spawns, we're kind of going to keep this position up just to deal with the rest of the enemies. Here as well, I have the option with positioning, and that's kind of one of those things that you kind of have to keep in mind as well. We have some enemies downstairs. What I could do is actually pull away from the ledge. Then I can still shoot across to that enemy and not be hit by the enemies below. But the enemies below weren't really shooting at me. I would have done that if they were kind of shooting at me. And we're just cleaning up. Nothing too impressive. One enemy made it up here. They likely spawned right next to me, or well, in that doorway downstairs, and came up the ladder. And while they kind of spook me, you know, it's not that hard to deal with them. One thing I should have done there, if we were kind of min-maxing, if we want to like full output, which as we see here as well, it's not very much needed. But he was very close to me. He was you know, he was in my face. I should have ACS'd him because, as you can see on my Heartbreaker stacks, Heartbreaker loses stacks a lot faster than Striker does. I'm already down to half stacks, and also it doesn't stack as well as Striker does. Striker, basically for every hit that you make on an enemy, gives you a stack. Heartbreaker, 50-50 almost, it feels. It is very inconsistent in how it counts as stacks. So I should have ACS this guy, getting myself back to high stacks, and then continue it. So yeah, let's continue on. We have, again, still the height advantage against these enemies, making it much easier to kind of deal with them. Here with the shield as well, the shield, if enemies are below you, if enemies are above you especially, they can kind of shoot over your shield. It covers you a lot more on the lower end, and while enemies can be very low below you and shoot kind of below your shield, that's not going to be the case for these enemies. So being above them instead of letting them be above me is really handy. And then yeah, this enemy chooses to go up a ladder, and we just finish him off. So analysis-wise, if we're really going to go into it and going to go, is there any mistakes here and such? Not particularly, because I know kind of the limits of this build. This build as well, for solo play, is just completely overpowered anyway, outside of, you know, going into legendaries or such. But on heroic, it's not going to struggle at all with these kind of enemies. I'm going in with my shield here and such. As we look a little bit later, I'm kind of giving up on the shield because I notice I just don't need it. Also, once my Heartbreaker is kind of stacked, because with that initial part, I kind of was expecting a few hits as I'm getting my Heartbreaker stacked. But once I have my Heartbreaker stacked, things die so fast that, you know, because when we're talking about basically time to kills and time to clears, yeah, that was... with a lot of misses, that was likely 10 hits of the weapon with another 20 misses there, and enemies, even a purple, kind of melts to us. Pushing up here, it's one of those things that, yeah, where do you kind of place yourself? And especially if you can take a height advantage over enemies, just always do. There is generally not a downside to a height advantage. Sometimes it is an exposed area. You have to also remember the rule of if you can shoot everybody, everybody can shoot you. And then especially I'm kind of thinking of the towers in Tombs at the boss fight. Those are too exposed, for instance, to all angles. And also you still have an enemy above you in the form of Parnell shooting down on you. So for instance, there is a reason, but here there's not going to be any enemies above me if I go upstairs there. And I've tried basically going any other way, and then you sometimes have enemies on the left and on the right going above you, and that makes it really hard, especially if enemies are above you. You can't really shoot them while they take cover because they're basically not exposing anything to you. You can kind of shoot them from the sides or something if you have an angle, but here, just taking the high ground, and it's kind of over for them. These kind of things, you have to, yeah, just look at your own gameplay, and then also look at other people's gameplay and kind of understand when you are kind of making mistakes or where you're doing things right in comparison to others, because that's also the thing. And part of it is as well, be honest. You don't have to just praise yourself, or if you are that, or if you're differing psychology, just berate yourself. There isn't an always all things right, all things wrong. For instance, here as well, I can use these pillars a little bit for some cover as well, especially from across. That's why this position upstairs here is so good. But the first few times in here as well, I would just go downstairs into the middle, not really understanding these things. One thing as well, after a fight, you can, of course, just run around a room and kind of, well, first of all, look for loot. For instance, this room as well has a chest underneath my current position there, kind of where you can, actually, let's go. Get that one as, for instance, there's a, if you go looking around, you will have, for instance, a chest down here, which you will find that you can grab and, it might be something good. But also just here and there, of course, in a 4-man or something, that's not that nice, but I have definitely gone around this room and kind of gone like, okay, what after fights, especially solo, you can just do the mission solo, or even with activities if you run around the zone a lot. For instance, I run around the outcast zones a lot, so sometimes after completing a part, I will go like, okay, where did I position, where could I position, and then a position like that upstairs kind of instantly becomes clear. So yeah, let's move on to another analysis, and for instance, one where I actually very much mess up. And here we're gonna, after, of course, those other two, I kind of know what I'm doing with some missions and stuff. That doesn't mean that I don't mess up as well. Still, we're gonna look at one of those mess ups, which is over here, which is how I quite recently lost a hardcore character as I was just running around and leveling them during reanimated. Now there is some mechanic things that we also can talk about here, but first let's just look at it. And of course, one of the handy things of streaming is that yeah, for instance, here I have the second channel as well. If for those that don't know about it, the VODs of streams go up on here. That's just to keep the main channel not as cluttered, as I do kind of stream to the main channel, but then the VODs go over here. This is the VOD from the year 24, the month 09, and the day 02 in the afternoon. And yeah, towards the end, I was kind of getting a little bit, especially, of course, with reanimated, kind of too courageous, too confident. Let's first watch it in whole, and then we're gonna analyze it, kind of, because in kind of the same style as we had a second ago. So yeah, I'm engaging on hostage rescue. This is in fact in Southwest, one of the zones that I kind of use a lot for farming. And yeah, I finish off that wave, the initial wave. They spawn right next to me. I kind of hit the rusher, but I missed the other two, and then I get murdered while revive hiving. Generally, of course, you wouldn't be revive hived, or while you're getting revive hived, you wouldn't be shot. There is actually a thing we're going to discuss towards the end of that, but yeah, what went wrong? And we can kind of go back and kind of look at what went wrong, of course, if we go back here. So the way that, let's go back a little bit more. I'm coming at it, of course, we have the full engagement there. I'm, of course, going to scatter them a little if you haven't played Reanimated ever. The allies also get hit by the clouds, and the clouds happen when you headshot enemies. I'm running Determined Hotshot here with 6 blue cores. With the event, that was still enough to one-shot even starting on elites, just from standstill in cold blood, so to say. And that made me quite confident. So I'm already a little bit high on my confidence. We're gonna engage these enemies and kind of deal with them quite quickly. One thing is here, game knowledge-wise, knowing this area, as this is by Southwest, by the historic district, and a lot of people will know that as well. Recently, because of the manhunt, the final part of the manhunt, the Nix, which we are Nix, manhunt leading through here. It is a pretty exposed area, and then the spawn points for this public execution are especially, you can kind of see it in the upper left. There is some buildings, they can spawn up there, and of course right next to me on the right, kind of where they actually do spawn. So game-wise, I should have not positioned myself where I am, because I know they're going to spawn there. There's going to be elite rushers. There's always going to be at least one elite rusher with the defense wave of a public execution. So this is bad positioning to begin with. here as well, I don't have a fallback option. One of the things you kind of want to think about, especially, is where do you fall back to if your current position is kind of, if the grenade comes in, if a flame grenade comes in, whatever, there's a lot of things that will push you out of cover. Where do you go next? So for instance, here, I'm kind of on this corner, and really the only place that I have to go is just to fall back and then just kind of wait for the fire to go away, or even fall back more further and just let them come to me. Generally, if you can have a second place kind of where you can go without also giving up the fight, that's kind of prefer. So yeah, here I'm just going to open up this fight. I'm taking one shot and I'm kind of waiting. This is just to get them to spread out and also to get my allies to kind of get out of the cloud. As you can see, they're taking damage. That Scorcher is out of that cloud, so I'm kind of just taking those shots. And here I'm kind of just waiting for my hostage to go a little bit away from them. Usually when they reach the case where they're going to grab ammo from, or grab weapons from, they kind of don't take damage anymore unless it's really close to them. So I'm going to kill the last guy here, and then we're going to have the spawn right next to me. So I instantly hear them. Here we have the sound kind of turned off, because otherwise, yeah, we're kind of I'm going to be talking over myself. I instantly see a rusher coming out. So yeah, that becomes my priority target. And here as well, this is the actual mistake, because generally the mistake isn't at the moment that you die. The mistake is usually far before it. So the mistake that I made was actually pushing out of that cover and kind of putting myself out in the open. But what I wanted, of course, is to kind of run out and get this rusher and maybe a follow-up. That would be enough to damage a lot of the enemies. But this is the mistake that will cause the death in a second, together with me missing my follow-up shots. So I get out here. I see a second rusher there, very importantly. So I'm kind of, that is also part of the mistake that I make here is, so I'm pushing out of cover. I'm kind of exposing myself. I'm now out in the open. This is a horrible mistake to make. I can't understand it though, because I've been very overconfident during these fights. Because also with, if you look at how much armor I have, I could actually take a hug, be hugged by these rushers, and as long as I get out of the fire and not just linger in it, I don't even get an armor break generally. Depending on how close they are when they explode, there's a proximity to it. So I do get the rusher, and also that was actually a lucky shot on that part, because I wasn't, as you saw there, my marksman rifle was not actually fully accurate at that point. And then yeah, I kind of missed that shot. The reason as well is I'm kind of trying to keep it for that rusher, and actually I didn't really even want to take that shot, but I did. I miss a second shot, I miss a third shot, and at this point I'm kind of realizing, oh, I'm in trouble. So I start to run away. I'm kind of out in the open, thinking there still though that it's kind of fine. I can get to cover either, or I'll get downed and I still have the hive, of course, to get me back up. But then they shoot me till I die. The positioning there was horrendous, and me also pushing out of my cover cost me that hardcore character, which is fine. I know what I signed up for when I started the hardcore. I'm not mad at the game or anything, as well, because I've analyzed this and kind of in the moment itself, I kind of knew, like here, here is where I knew I had fucked up, basically, when I had hit my health gate and I was kind of just out in the open. Now, I was expecting my hive to get me, and it turns out that actually, as I went back in and tested a few things, is that if there is a cloud on the ground, that counts as your damage. There was, of course, that initial cloud that happened from that one enemy that I killed. When you do that, the enemies kind of consider you as still damaging them, and they will put you down if there is clouds around. So actually, for hardcore characters, it's very important to know this for in the future, because I went back and tested this a few times, and very consistently, generally, especially just normal enemies, not hunters, not rogues, don't finish off players if they are just downed and they're getting revive time, especially now with the very fast revive time that we have. They, especially as well, there were hostages nearby, so they would kind of just swap targets to them. But here, because I had that cloud on the ground, they finished me off. So that's game knowledge to take into the future, knowing that that is the case, and not being so haphazard there with it when I do have my revive hive with reanimated, knowing that they might well, if there's a cloud down, they will just choose to end me. And then yeah, at that point, basically at this point, it was already lost. I just didn't know it yet, and that's also why the reaction there of just the very saddest of the Ikeyas. Also, weirdly, it says there you reach level 19, which I'm still not sure why it like why that says, because yeah, I was in SHE levels and we're SHE level 200 something, but this will also give me something to do. And also, I'm happier for it to be this way instead of a delta or a crash or some shenanigans. The game sometimes just shenanigans out and just murders you. This was just my mistake. I can deal with that. I can deal with mistakes. And of course, the thing was, I was farming hard and I was just becoming haphazard, becoming nonchalant about it, and paid the price. Which is exactly kind of how I feel hardcore shit kind of go. So yeah, the verdict there is the triage as well was actually kind of bad, because I was kind of hesitant to shoot towards those initial two enemies. That kind of as well cost me a few of the shots there. So if we go back to a little bit earlier. So when this first enemy comes out, I shoot him, of course. That puts the cloud down. That's also why the reason that I had these two follow-up shots as well. They were kind of, I was trying to save my shot. You can see him on the right. There's a second rusher, and I was like, yeah, I want to hit him, and that made me hesitant to take these shots. Because of that as well, I didn't think well towards his aim. I was kind of processing way too much at the moment. I should have just been on the moment and just taking these shots, put these shots in, and I would have survived. And yeah, that kind of stuff is just stuff that you can always work on. Even for me, this is something like with a hardcore, I should always be aware of my positioning. I shouldn't try to take risky moments, because it's not worth it. Generally, you will have to level a hardcore character. So yeah, that is the self-analysis part kind of explained. Let's go to a conclusion where we recap everything and lead out of here. And to conclude this video, I would definitely recommend performing a little bit of self-analysis on yourself, using tools for that as well, using basically replay systems. Coming from a background of RTSs, I'm very used to actually having replay systems. Of course, Division doesn't have that built in, but of course, we can do exactly what we did here and just record ourselves and kind of look back at it, and not go in with the mindset of I already know what I'm doing and such, because generally you don't. A lot of things will stand out to you once you perform a little bit of reviewing footage of yourself playing. As has always been the case for myself as well. I notice a lot of things. For instance, my aim is still horrendous, but good enough to get by. And over time, that will help you improve on everything that you're kind of doing. Because even before I even started streaming or anything or such, I would, for instance, during raids and such, actually record myself and just rewatch it. Just rewatch, especially parts that concerned me. As you get better at the game, and especially once you kind of know the tools of self-analysis, you can also do it kind of on the fly. I would say I'm pretty confident nowadays that I kind of do that kind of stuff on the fly as well, and can kind of analyze mistakes, especially when I get downed or something, or get killed in such ways. I can kind of get to the root cause of it. And of course, with that, be honest with yourself. And that goes in both ways, both in being over appraising yourself, but also under appraising yourself. You're generally not as good as you think or as bad as you think, whichever one you may think. And of course, there's always ways of improving to anybody, as it's a race with yourself. You're not against anybody else. Generally, it is much against yourself. So yeah, I hope you found this video informative, or in some ways enjoyed it, as we stand here and ring our bell at the Skinner, as we just are going to torture him as he is our hostage for now. And yeah, in the future, we're going to go, of course, into the third part of this, although there's going to be a few videos in between, as the very next videos are going to be a few only tips, as we're going to go into time and also into door boundaries, as those are two subjects that I've been meaning to tackle for quite a bit. And then we're going to go as well in the next build showcase into strikers, just plain old strikers. Actually, while I do have a build showcase on obliterate strikers, that was kind of like my second build showcase a long time ago. It is not of the quality that I have nowadays, although I would say I've improved, hopefully, as I've performed some self-analysis on my videos as well. Yeah, we'll then go into the third part of improving yourself, which is going to be centered around group play and kind of group dynamics and how that changes this whole discussion. So yeah, I hope you join me for those, and as always, have a good night. Except you, Keener, you don't have a good night here. Have a bell. I'm going to stand next to you and just bell. But you out there, have a good night.